freelancer, you're not just managing client campaigns, you're running your own business too. Constant Contact is here to help you do both without the stress. With email and social media tools all rolled into one place, you can stay consistent with your marketing, build your own brand, and connect with potential clients without juggling a million different platforms. Create professional emails to showcase your services, schedule social posts to stay visible, and track how it's all performing in one very simple dashboard. It's everything you need to keep your business growing while still delivering for all those clients of yours. Ready to work smarter on your business? Then head to constantcontact.com. This podcast is sponsored by Constant Contact. On today's show, we're diving into how you can use emotion in your content to get more engagement.
Welcome to another episode of JFDI with the Two Lauras, where we talk about all the aspects of life as a freelance social media manager, from working with clients to marketing tips, goal setting to content planning. And in today's episode, we are going to do a bit of a deep dive into some of the ways that you can sprinkle emotion into your content to drive more engagement. And you'll be pleased to hear that what we're sharing today works just as well for your own content as it will for your clients. So let's start with what we mean by emotional triggers.
Well, an emotional trigger is something that makes someone react. They feel something, don't they? They see your content and it makes them have some kind of reaction, essentially, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I'm not meaning like a physical reaction as in they're clicking the like button.
They might pass out.
Yeah. But there's something inside them that has a response.
Yes, their brain reacts. So like they might laugh, they might cry, they might have a nice memory of a friend or a holiday or something. They might get really annoyed, really irritated, which happens to me quite a lot, I have to say.
Yeah.
Or they might just feel like, oh, this person gets me. They understand me. They might feel grateful. Oh, thank God I don't have that. Or oh, I'm really grateful I do have this. You know, that sort of feeling. There's lots of different emotions, isn't there?
Yeah. And I think often when people talk about this, I think people automatically think of laughter or tears, don't they?
Yeah.
Which are obviously very polar extremes. But there's so many other smaller emotions that you can kind of tap into with your content. It doesn't have to be all about the big lols.
Like, think about all the different feelings you would have if you're watching TV. Like, I am a massive reality TV nerd. Like, it's ridiculous. I'm addicted. And so I love watching, like, Real Housewives, for example. So if I was watching the new series of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, I know during watching that, I will feel relieved that I'm not as annoying as them and my lives aren't as terrible as them because, like, you know, their husbands run off with people and they spend millions of dollars and they con people and all of that crap. So I feel relief. I feel envious of their houses because they're amazing, pretty envious of their money. I get annoyed about the stupid arguments they have about pathetic things. Like, there's so many different emotions that I have while I'm watching it. And the same when you're watching any TV programs, that if you're not sure about like what emotions can you spark, just think about, well, how did I feel when I watched such and such type of program? Yeah, exactly. You know, how do you feel when the Duff go? Yeah, if you're not from the UK, that might not mean anything to you.
No, surely everybody knows EastEnders.
Maybe, but they may not know the Duffs.
Yeah, but anyway, we're not. What I'm not saying, and I'm sure you're not saying, is that it has to be like the big drama on EastEnders Christmas special.
No, it doesn't have to be dramatic. It just have to make people feel some kind of way.
Yeah, and that can be very subtle.
Yeah. And there's reasons that you need to do that. Like, all content, whether you mean to or not, will make people feel a certain way. But you need to kind of put some sort of effort into it because you want people to feel a certain way, because people are on social media for specific reasons. The biggest reason that they're on there is because they want to feel some sort of connection with other people. Right? So that's why it's social media. They're connecting with other people. But they might be in a bad mood. So therefore seeing something that's funny will lift them up a bit. They might be feeling really happy and therefore seeing something that kind of boosts that mood even more is brilliant. You know, they might be frustrated and they see something that gets rid of that frustration and makes them feel relief. So you're tapping into all of those emotions to connect with them.
Yeah. And I think that's why we do that in I was going to say real life. Obviously, social media is real life, but you know what I mean? Like when we meet people face to face or talk to people on the phone, there are ways in which we connect with people using emotion.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's for different reasons. Sometimes because you want to cheer someone up. Sometimes you want people to understand that you understand and you get it. It's like there's so many different reasons that we do that. So this shouldn't be a kind of an alien concept.
No, definitely not. It's like when you, not that I've done this for a long time, but if you went on a first date, you would hope that that person would make you laugh, because then you would feel a bit more at ease, because it's that emotion, isn't it? It makes you feel like that. But yeah.
Let's not get into our first dates.
No, oh God, no. No, I've started thinking about it now, and now I've really got the ick.
Yeah, there's definitely some emotional reactions in those ones.
Yeah, definitely not the good kind. So I think it's really important to discuss what kind of businesses can use emotion in their content, because I know that there will be at least one social media manager listening to this going, well, that's great, Laura, but I can't use that with my client.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt, everyone will be thinking that.
100%. So this may come as a shock, what we're about to tell you. So what businesses can use emotion?
All of them.
Literally.
Full stop.
Full stop. End. There's literally no reason why a business cannot use some kind of emotion in their content. Like the amount of times, if we were to ask a social media manager if they could work for any brand who they want to work for, they would all say innocent, because they're funny. But any brand can be funny. If you want to work with a brand that, you know, can put humour out, literally any brand could do that. As long as it's relevant to the audience, relevant to whatever you're doing, then, it's relevant. It's just an emotion, isn't it? So, and there's no reason, like every single piece of content should make you feel some kind of way. Not humour always, but it should make you feel something.
Yeah, and there are obviously ones that are going to be more difficult than others. Like if you were working for a funeral directors, that might not be...
Emotion, sadness.
No, I know, but you just said everybody can make someone laugh or be funny.
No,
I don't think that's... Yeah, but you can't... It's not going to be appropriate.
There is that life insurance company who talk about death in a very funny way on Facebook, although I haven't seen their ads lately. I can't remember what they were called. But they were definitely using humour around death. Obviously, they weren't a funeral director, but yeah.
And I think that comes down to a degree. I think if a client gets it and a client is... you're able to convince that client, but some clients won't want that as their brand.
No, they won't want the humour, but there will be other emotions that you don't even need to get. You don't even need to have a conversation with the client about them.
No,
you don't need to say, "Oh, I'm going to create some content this week that makes people feel relieved."
No, absolutely not. No, and I think a funeral director. I just think if you're going to think out the box, if you're going to go extreme,
extremes,
potentially controversial, then I think that you need to have a conversation to know whether they're going to be happy with that.
Yeah,
but that's you in many respects, like a funeral director is like probably one of the easiest to strike emotion, because of course anything on that whole topic is going to, surely you've got to be quite a hard person to not be affected by things that a funeral director could be putting out on socials.
And there's probably a whole range of emotions that you could make people feel. Like you could make them feel comforted, you could make them feel helped, you could make them feel a little bit more happy. There's so many different things that you could make somebody feel, even just in that one industry.
It's subtle. Subtle sometimes works just as well. You don't
totally.
This isn't about people rolling around on the floor laughing. And
when was the last time you actually did that?
I don't know, I can't even get down on the floor.
Let alone get up. So don't create content that makes us do that, thanks.
But yeah, it's not extreme when, this is just subtle, and it could be in every single piece of content.
Totally. So how then? How do you make people feel emotion?
I think without a doubt, and I always feel like the words that are about to come out of my mouth, people just zone out to, because people say it so much, but it's understanding your audience. And this shouldn't be the point that you all just go, oh God, here we go again. But it just clearly can't get the words out to express how important actually understanding your audience is to being able to create content.
And I feel like that is because especially if you're somebody who consumes a lot of free content, they don't go into depth enough about understanding your audience. And they would be talking about like the demographics of where they live and what job they have and how many kids they've got and all of that stuff. But they don't go much deeper than that. And you have to think deeper than that. You have to really understand, like, what common frustrations do people in your audience have? What are their common problems? What are their common desires? What are their like shared values? What are all of those things? What do they do when they can't sleep at night? Why? What are they thinking about? What's keeping them awake? What do they watch when they're watching videos on social media? What do they feel badly about? Like, what do they feel guilty about? It's all of those sorts of things that people don't really necessarily go deep into.
What are like the myths and things that the controversial things that people say about that gets you annoyed?
Yeah.
Like, it's all of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. What
wrapped
would wind
up
them
in
up?
a bundle. Yeah.
Like with social media managers, we know the things that wind you up are things like when you've created an Instagram reel and then the Reels builder loses your reel. We know that you'd get annoyed by Meta Ads Manager, for example. So there's things that we know will make you feel a certain type of way. And, you know, there's other things like if we've got parents in our audience, we'll know that some of their frustrations are that they don't want to be on their phone when their kids are around. You know, there's things like that we know. But there's also things that we know because we've had conversations with people or because we've gone and looked at the content they're sharing and all of that sort of thing. So there are some things that you'll know about your audience. There's other things you need to go and find out.
But you can also use the data. You can go back and look and think, right, of this content I've created, are there any current themes that are, you know, shining through, that we're constantly referring to this and this is what's getting all the comments or this is what's getting all the likes? Or so you can use your data, which you should be looking at all the time, to see if there are common themes, common topics. You know, it's like whenever we've put out posts about social media not being an admin job, that gets, you know, we've had a lot of heated conversations in our comments and in our DMs about that, because it creates a reaction. And some people, it creates a positive reaction because they're like, yes, hell yes. You know, they want to shout from the rooftops about it. Other people want to come and tell us how wrong we are and how we're, you know, slating admin people and all that, which obviously we're not. But we know that now. So we know that we can use that a theme throughout our content whenever we want to.
Yeah. We also know that like showing the real side of our lives. So like if we share content about our kids and, you know, the tough year that we've had, those sorts of things, we know that will spark a reaction, because people have a reaction about how it's affected us, but also because it affects them in some way. You know, they may have been in a similar situation. Their kid might have been in hospital. You know, they might be struggling because they've got 3 kids. So we're all different ages at different times and they've got to do, you know, different taxi jobs in the evening. And it's like getting that connection, isn't it? And them feeling like, oh, yeah, you get me because you've done that too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like, I remember when one of my very first clients, we did a lot of this, a lot of kind of talking about that user persona, about the emotions, about what got people to, you know, riled, what got people happy, all of that. And it was such a good exercise, and for me as a social media manager, it made content creation easier because I knew what I was looking for. I knew what kind of content I had, because in my head I was able to say, is this person going to find this funny? And we would often go and look at people who were engaging on our content. We would go and look at their profiles, and it's so much easier now, unless obviously everything's locked down, and you can see the types of things that they're sharing. And when people share content to their stories, say, for example, if you're on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, you can see the kind of things that they're sharing. That's obviously created a reaction, and then you can use that. So are they only sharing things which are really funny, or are they sharing things about the news or the state of the world or global warming, whatever it is? Because then you can start to understand how those people are reacting and try and tap into that. You do have to kind of stalk a little bit.
Yeah,
and
totally.
That's okay. If they've got open profiles, that's what they're there for. Go have a mooch, go watch their stories, go see what's happening. And also, depending on who if you can, as a social media manager, can relate to the target audience, go and see what they're talking about in, WhatsApp groups, or people are talking about on social media. It's like you said before, we get frustrated by content, and a lot of that is we screenshot and we would share it with each other. So it's not always, I know I said before about looking at the data, it's not always about understanding the data, because there's so much happens on social media that we can't see through the data, like people screenshotting it and whacking it in a WhatsApp group with their mum friends or their work colleagues or whoever they are. So it's trying to tap into that and trying to find out what people are responding to.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's also about, like, when this comes to you and your business, it's understanding what all of those things mean to your clients in terms of their business and in terms of their social media marketing, right? So you might understand that your audience are all mums who are, tired and feel bad for being on their phones, whatever. But how does that relate to their business? All of those shared frustrations that they might have that are not related to business, how can you tie that back? So we understand the audience, we've done our stalking, we've got to know them, we know what their problems are, their myths, their misconceptions, the things that make them laugh, all of that stuff. How do we actually translate that into content?
So you're going to need to understand what emotion you're trying to trigger, and you can't say, well, everything, because obviously that's not going to work. So you need to sit down and think, which of these emotions do I want my content to create that reaction for? And literally write them down.
Yeah, like you could have a whole massive list that you just, like, anytime you're in content creation mode and you're a bit stuck, go and look at the list.
Yeah.
Like, there are so many.
You can even have like a spider diagram.
Oh my God.
Each emotion, and like ideas that make people feel happy, ideas that make people feel sad, although I'm fairly sure none of us want to make people feel sad, but
no,
things that are going to make people feel relief, or that they belong to something, or they're proud of something. It's those kind of things, that nostalgia, maybe, like whatever it is. You write them all down and write down all the different ideas based on all of your research and understanding of the audience of what you could do. So then when you're planning your content, you could say, right, let's get out a spider diagram sadness and let's see which I could do.
Yeah. And you can come up with, like, that would be an amazing thing to do, to come up with loads of ideas. But you might work the other way around as well, right? So you might have loads of ideas for content, but then you're like, well, how do I add the emotion to it? So you could work it the other way around as well. So for example, if you're somebody who, so let's do this from our perspective, right? If we were going to create a post I said earlier about the Reels builder breaking. Let's say that we wanted to create content about the Reels builder breaking. We could make a funny, like, POV reel, that says on the screen, and it's got, like, some crazy video of us being really annoyed. And then it says on the screen, POV, you just spent an hour creating the funniest reel ever for a client, and it vanishes right when you press publish. People would find that that's quite funny and it's relatable. But you might want to help people to feel a different way. So maybe like relieved or helped. So therefore, instead of doing like that funny thing, you could create like a how-to post, how to use InShot, for example, so you never have to lose your mind in the Reels builder again. People will be relieved and happy because they can do something instead of using the Reels builder, but it's still the same topic. You might want to make people feel part of a community, and you might just literally put a post out that says, welcome to the side of the internet where we spend our lives creating Reels, only for Instagram to delete them. And people would be like, yeah, hi, that's me. There's loads of different ways you can use the same topic with different emotions.
I love that.
So is that what we're putting out later?
Yeah. Let's get those all three in the scheduler.
Okay.
Bish, bash, bosh.
Done. If you wanted to use those ideas for your clients, though, so you wouldn't be speaking to social media managers, you'd be speaking to your clients, you could use the same idea, same emotions, but you just need to make sure that it speaks to your right people. So it could be that all of your audience, so I keep saying that maybe your audience is parents. So your POV reel about the Reels builder breaking could be something like, POV, you just burnt the fish fingers because the Reels builder broke again as you were trying to publish a reel, right?
Nice.
That speaks to parents. It could be the how-to thing, could be, well, similar to what we said before, but you might call out the actual audience. So it's how to use InShot for your jewelry business to create amazing reels. So you would word this much better, so that you don't have to use the Instagram Reels builder, right? It could be those sorts of things. Welcome to the side of the internet where we spend hours creating videos about our latest t-shirts, only for them to be deleted by Instagram. You know, just think about how you can speak to the actual audience. So it's more relevant to an audience that you're trying to sell to than other social media managers, because those people are not going to buy from you. So always think about the people you're trying to kind of get to buy from you. So like, for example, a few weeks ago, Laura put out a reel that was Canva went down. But anytime Canva goes down, we know that you guys are going to be stressed out. So Laura put out a reel showing how stressed she was about Canva, and it went down really well because we know that that's relevant to you, but that might not be relevant to your audience because they might not use Canva. So therefore you would think of something else. You know, you could put something like, POV, your social media uses Canva and hasn't been able to create your content today, but I use Adobe, so my day's been amazing. You know, you could flip it. So it makes you look good and someone else look not so good. And then you kind of spark that curiosity emotion.
Yeah, love this. Aren't you clever?
I don't know, am I? Love thinking of things like this.
I'm just sat here thinking, God, I hope she doesn't ask me to think of an example.
So, Laura, what examples have you got for the podcast?
None. I do remember one of the viral posts, but I'm not going to be able, that I did for one of my clients, and I'm not going to be able to explain it well enough that I think it will be worthy of it. But I think it was like Topshop, so their target audience were mums of young children, and Topshop had released these jeans. This is like a true story. Jeans which had like holes in them, like big like rectangles cut out of them, but then like a see-through like plastic cover over the gap.
Oh my God,
they were really weird. I will have to try and find this now, and if I can, I will share it somewhere. And we took a screenshot of these trousers on Topshop, and then I can't remember whether we referred it to cling film or...
Well, that's what I was about to say. Is it like cling film in your trousers?
I don't think it was in the end. I remember having this conversation with the client and trying to think of different angles for it. I think we just went down like the latest trend or is this aimed at... I can't remember how I did it. I will go and find it, but it was just funny and it was timely and it made everyone laugh and everyone was sharing it. And yeah, it was... But that was... some of these things you do have to be kind of aware of what's happening around you, like aware of what's happening in the news, maybe aware of what's happening in the industry that your target audience is in, not necessarily your industry, in relation to what you were saying before about Canva or maybe the Reels builder. Your target audience might not understand that. It might not be relevant to them.
Yeah.
But what's happening in their industry, and and this is all social listening. It's not just about finding out what's happening because you want to comment on a article maybe in that industry. It's about these trends, it's about new releases, and it's about then trying to tie that into your client.
Yeah, so it's different as well. It's like when Spotify Unwrapped comes every year and all the content is everyone's sharing their Spotify Unwrapped. It's like, oh my God, this is so boring. And that is not an emotion you want to kind of trigger. You don't want people to feel bored when they see your content. So you need to do something different with it. Like can you make it funny? Like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. I was listening to the Frozen soundtrack all year.
Britney.
And but it needs to be relevant and funny to your audience. Like just doing that isn't relevant to your audience. And sharing like things that everybody else is doing at the same time will only help you if it's really hyper relevant to your audience and sparks an emotion with that audience at the same time.
And just on that, just on the flip of that, just because you see other people sharing it and they're getting engagement because it's relevant to their audience, and I mean by it, I mean a trend, it doesn't mean you have to, because your audience is going to be different. Well, 9 times out of 10 it's going to be different. Don't be looking at other social media managers and think, oh well, they're all sharing this, I should too, or how can I get in on that trend?
Yeah, how can I use the latest Barbie movie in my content?
Wicked.
Or Wicked, whatever, if your audience isn't somebody who would watch Barbie or Wicked.
Exactly.
It doesn't make
okay.
sense.
Yeah, it's okay to sit back and go, this one's not for me.
Yeah.
Because your audience. Yeah. And just because you can see everybody else doing it, it's just as good to not do it than do it and it falls flat.
Totally. Yeah, definitely agree. Love that. So there we go. That's how you can use emotion in your content. Think of what emotion it is you want to spark. Do Laura's little spider diagram, and you'll be full of content ideas for 2025.
Yeah, we're all going to be laughing, lolling, feeling
rolling
in
on
the community, rolling on the floor.
floor.
Yeah, hopefully not crying. But on that point, and when I used to do workshops and we used to talk about emotional triggers, I always remember giving the example of the news. Like if you go and look at BBC News or any other news provider, not sponsored by, but if you go and look at their social content, they always, actually probably even your local newspapers, they always get so much engagement because 9 times out of 10, news is either going to make someone happy, rarely, or make someone angry or sad. It is those extremes of emotions, but that's why news platforms always thrive.
But that's if you went to look at the Daily Mail, for example, they would have the same story with different headlines that focused on a different emotion, but it's the same story.
Yeah.
It's because they're speaking to different people because they know that different people will react differently and therefore go and click onto their website.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to tell the same story from a different perspective, different emotion.
Yeah. And if you've done something and you've tried to make someone laugh and it didn't happen.
Although how can you tell if it happened?
Well, because as in they fell flat, but maybe they were rolling around so much they couldn't like the
they couldn't get up to get the phone anymore. Yeah.
Because they couldn't get up. Yeah. But if you feel like that, whatever emotion you'd gone for didn't quite hit the spot, you can do it again. Like this whole repurposing is a thing, and we need to just keep trying and keep trying that different message to understand. Because the more we do this, the more we try, the more we learn, the more data we get, the more experience we get. So the more that our content plans and campaigns can become kind of laser brilliant, because we've understood everything that makes our people react in an emotional way.
Totally. And I feel like we've thrown a lot at you in this episode. So if you want to just do one task, just to kind of get your head around this, go and think of one topic that you could create a post about. And then how could you say that in a funny way? How could you say it so it helps somebody? How could you do it so that it makes people feel part of a community? Like, how could you do it so that they feel relieved? But it's that one, the same story, the same topic in different emotions. Just try it and see. Let us know how you get on. Come into our Instagram DMs and tell us. Or tag us in the content you create. We want to see it.
Oh, yeah. Especially if it's going to make me lol.
Love it. And if you need more help with your messaging in terms of creating content that actually speaks to your ideal clients, then that is where the Social Media Managers Toolkit comes in. We are going to have lots of new lessons in the brand new toolkit, all about how you can craft messaging that speaks to people who you want to work with. So go to thetwolauras.com/toolkit to find out all about that. And we will be back, same time, same place next week. What language are you saying goodbye in today, Laura?
Au revoir.
Toodles! That wasn't a language, I just made it up. Bye!
Bye!